Oh, Foxy, it's your birthday. Not for real, real, just for play, play. This is Cree Summer, and Moana Nui will be right back.
All right, everyone, we're going to get started with our next interview with Tom, and we're going to have our first outlet ask the first question.
Hey, there is always some luck involved. I started at Hanna-Barbera, and I made a pup named Scooby-Doo, and Mr. Spielberg saw that and liked it, and there's cheering behind me, and he said, let's make this Tiny Toon show. So he hired me to make Tiny Toons at Warner Brothers, and it's from that the whole stream of shows blossomed because we had a pretty good budget. Warner Brothers had made a lot of money from Batman, so they could uh, sponsor our kind of expensive shows because we had an orchestra. We had really great animation. We had a lot of great voice artists and directors. So we made these pretty expensive shows of Tiny Toons, and those shows were the ones that made Spielberg sort of have a lot of trust in us. And then he said, "What do you want to do next, Tom?" And that's when Animaniacs came along. And so at that point, we really sort of got the keys to the kingdom, and we were allowed to just really make crazy, funny cartoons the way we wanted to, with no one sort of breathing down our necks. So I think uh, that's the joy of the experience because we really had a lot of fun making them. And I think that's why they lasted so long because we didn't have a lot of people saying no. Yes, sir. Hi. Hey. Oh, thanks. Yeah, I think Animaniacs is probably creatively the most appealing to me, the most satisfying because we literally were allowed to just tell stories that we felt were worth telling, that were funny. We had a really great group of very funny writers, and honestly, the network wasn't getting in our way. The bosses at Warner Brothers weren't getting in our way. We were really just free to pursue our creative visions. Um, not many places today allow that. There's a lot of rules everywhere, a lot of people up above, giving you notes, but we didn't have that. We were just like, if we could make the guy in the next room laugh, if when we were recording, if we could make uh, the voice director and everyone laugh in the booth, that was our goal, and so we knew that would work. If the people were laughing when we were making it, we knew it would pan out. Yes. That's a great question. We had uh, the joy of having these really great voice actors. It started with Tiny Toons. That was we had a great group. Tress MacNeille voiced Babs Bunny. So then when we wanted to make Animaniacs, we kind of knew we wanted Tress back because she was so good at Babs. So we wanted her to do Dot, but we didn't necessarily know who would play Yakko and Wacko. We didn't know who was going to do the Brain. Now, the Brain's an interesting audition because the Brain's voice, we didn't necessarily know what it was going to sound like. So Maurice LaMarche, a very good voice actor, came in, and his warm-up for no matter what show he was recording or whatever audition he was having, he always did the same warm-up that just got his voice ready. And that was, he would do a parody, he would do a version of Orson Welles doing a commercial back from the 70s where he was in a really bad mood. And it's a real recording of Orson Welles doing these like frozen pea commercials. And so that was how Maurice LaMarche, there in Lincolnshire, the fields are growing peas. Well, don't you just mean that the fields are already, the peas are already picked? Why would you do that? And so Maurice would do this impression of Orson Welles. We said, well, we're doing the Brain now. Do that voice. Just keep talking like him. And that's how the Brain was voiced. Jess Harnell, who wound up doing the voice of Wacko Warner, he came in, and we didn't have a voice for Wacko, and I brought in an almanac that had names of celebrities, and I just went down the list of different celebrities. Lou Costello, Laurel and Hardy. Do you do these voices? So we got to the Beatles. Do you do one of the Beatles? And he says, well, which one? I said, well, which ones do you do? I do all of them. So he went and he did George, Ringo, Paul, and John, different. They were all different. And we said, that Ringo's really good. And so that became the voice of Wacko Warner. It started as Ringo. I'm going to go with that young man right there. Yes. Wow. Well, all right. We were talking about this yesterday at the booth, and I'm thinking acting, whatever acting experience you can get, whether it's in a play or in something in your local community, or whether it's TV or any acting you can do, is a good bit of experience for whatever you're going to bring to voice acting. Because I think first comes the acting, and if that's really working for you and you really are serious about acting, I think the voice part will be a major part of your performances in general, and then you can then use that. And you know, it's great to have a few trick voices up your sleeve, but it's going to be like Rob Paulson, Maurice LaMarche, Tress MacNeille. They're great actors to begin with, so get a lot of acting under your belt. So there's a person right there who hasn't had a chance yet. Well, I hate to say it, but it's probably the Brain, because I do want to take over the world. But I like the Brain's ambition. I don't like necessarily the way he treats Pinky all the time. And I do like the fact that he's not doing it because he's a complete megalomaniac. I think he actually does want to help. And I think our world can use a little help now and then. Who hasn't gone yet? That young man hasn't gone. I think Pinky and the Brain and the Warners would both work really well. I think Pinky and the Brain is almost screaming for, CGI Pinky and the Brain mice that look very much like the cartoon characters, but they'd be, smoothed out CGI. And then with a live action world. I mean, them trying to take over the world, I think the world should be live action and they should be doing their thing. And I think it really works well because they're so small and the scales could be wonderful. I'd like to see the Warners in a similar type setting. I think it'd be great. Yeah. Now I'm just gonna do the loop again. Okay, is that all right? Yeah. That's good. The first one was at like a Saturday night ceremony in like the Beverly Hills, Beverly, Wilshire, and it was a dinner, and I was up for the song Animaniacs, the Tiny Toons theme song. That was the award I was up for, and I was with Bruce Broughton, who wrote the music, and Wayne Katz and I wrote the lyrics. So we're there, and they call our name, and Wayne is nowhere to be seen. And so I go up to the stage with Bruce Broughton, and we're thrilled. You know, first Emmy, it's really great. And halfway through, we're up there, you know, we're just chatting a little bit with the audience, and Wayne comes bounding in from the bar. He's tossed down a few, and he didn't he didn't know we had won, so he goes, "Hey, I won!" It's wow. But that was a great year. I think that first year I won like 2 or 3 Emmys. It was great. Yes, sir. Oh, that's probably a bigger question than I can come up with the answer at this exact moment. But I'll just say that Pinky and the Brain were based on, because when you're in a creative job, you sort of take from anything in your life that was meaningful and works for you, because you know you're trying to make these shows, but there's a certain time element, you got to get it done. So anyway, Pinky and the Brain were based on 2 of my colleagues at Warner's, Tom Minton and Eddie Fitzgerald. And Tom was a low talker, talked like this very quietly. And Eddie was a close pal of him, and he was loud and boisterous. And the 2 of them would get together, and Tom would be saying something really funny, and Eddie would go, "No, Narf!" He literally said the word Narf. So for Pinky and the Brain, it wasn't like it was a tremendous amount of work for me. I just said, okay, those 2 guys are trying to take over the world. What are we going to do with them? So there's a little bit of the creative process. You steal from anything you can get. There's a cartoon I wrote for Tiny Toons. It was and it starred Baby Plucky, who is learning how to, he's being potty trained, and he's into flushing the toilet. And water go down the hole, water go down. And then he did another cartoon called Elevator Go Up, Elevator. I touched all the buttons. Anyway, those cartoons I wrote, I didn't have to write anything, because those were all literally exactly what my kid was doing at that time in his life. So and he actually flooded a hotel room with the toilet. So anyway, I didn't have to write anything. It was real life.
Last question.
Oh, right here. That's a tough one. I think the creative process has changed, not necessarily always for the better. I think I'd like to see shows, I'd like to see individual writers be permitted to write their own episodes, rather than every show having like a room of writers who are all yelling at each other and throwing out ideas, and then someone's picking them out. I think it's tough for an individual writer to get their hands around that, or mind around that. I like that they're making animation and animated movies in different styles. I think we need to get a little bit away from the plasticine look of CGI. I think we need to get different textures in there. Not everything needs to look like a plastic toy. And I just think animation's never going to go away. I think a lot of people have done really well in animation. Right now, there's a little bit of with the streaming services, there's a little bit of a problem because they're not making any money, so they're cutting a lot of productions down to limited numbers. So I think there's a transition there. Yeah. Thank you all.
So many stories left to tell, even if we have to ourselves. Can't keep history on the shelf. If they won't tell it, we will.
If this the land of the free, it was a freedom then, when they annexed Hawaii and called it cedar lands, without any type of payment and no signing off. Called themselves the Republic in 1894. 1.2 million acres overtaken from the native Hawaiians. When they resisted, the West retaliated in violence and erasure. The Hawaiian language is banned as part of colonialism's plan to expand, yeah.
Stuck between a rock and a hard place. Multiple bombings of Kaho'olawe as a part of their ongoing war with Asia. Used it as a place for target practice. No consent or compensation. Colonizers call for annexation. No regard for all the locals. School will never let you know. So many stories left to tell, even if we have to ourselves. Can't keep history on the shelf. If we won't tell it, we will. Too many stories left to tell, even if we have to ourselves. Can't keep history on the shelf. If we won't tell it, we will. We will.
So if we put Hawaii into perspective, well, Black and Asian history is interconnected. Considering the fight with the Pacific, then of course versus Asia, they was treated as a middleman for war, but didn't let the Western colorism run its course. Cause dark skin was a sign of dignity to core. The land was taken in the name of capitalism, when prior to it was an actual kingdom. Clap back at the system.
Stuck between a rock and a hard place. Multiple bombings of Kaho'olawe as a part of their ongoing war with Asia. Used it as a place for target practice. No consent or compensation. Colonizers call for annexation. No regard for all the locals. School will never let you know. So many stories left to tell, even if we have to ourselves. Can't keep history on the shelf. If we won't tell it, we will. Too many stories left to tell, even if we have to ourselves. Can't keep history on the shelf. If we won't tell it, we will. So many stories left to tell, even if we have to ourselves. Can't keep history on the shelf. If we won't tell it, we will. Too many stories left to tell, even if we have to ourselves. Can't keep history on the shelf. If we won't